Hello, and especially hello to Hannah of Hannah's Books, who has contributed a new tag, something for us to discuss, called the Reading Shifts tag. Hannah has been away from BookTube for a little while, and we're glad to have her back. I certainly am. And Hannah, this is especially for you. I'm way behind in my tags, but I'm giving you precedence in your original tag to welcome you back. So, intriguing title, the Reading Shifts tag. Reading shifts what? Heavy lifting? Are we talking big books? Oh, maybe you mean reading in night shifts. Hannah, are you asking what we wear at night when we read shifts? Oh, I see. It's reading shifts. Yes, I do. I do most of them. 9 to 1, 2 to 5, 7 to midnight, 2 a.m. Is it a dare to read it out without mixing up letters? Reading shifts and saying something with toilet humour? Oh, you want to know about my reading habits and if they've changed over the years. I'm glad we got that sorted right at the start. Okay. Now, Hannah has a habit of asking questions which are very smart, intelligent, carefully phrased, which means they can be quite long. I'm going to answer a short version of the questions, and I will put the long, full version in the description of the video. So if you want to know exactly what the question is, you can look there. Okay, question 1. Reading developed over a lifetime. Well, age. Those of us over 28 may take a bit longer to answer this question. And I'm going to reference a tag I've already done called Evolution of a Reader tag, and I'll put the link because that will give you a whole lot of that information. Basically, up to the age of about 30, I mostly read fiction and I read classic. And then I somehow changed, and now I read non-fiction like there's no tomorrow. I cannot be kept away from history of art books, and I love all the arts, and when they come into books, I'm there. Yeah, so that's my basic change over time. I'm starting to get into biographies and letters, and that's what I would like to be reading next, amongst also poetry, because I've started writing poetry and restarted is another way to say it, and doing it seriously. So I'm trying to read quickly all the classics, catch up, which is impossible because although Britain has produced many, UK has produced, and Ireland has produced many, many poets, America has been doing it on a feverish basis for a long time, and it's such a large country. It's just, you've got to start writing yourself at some point to trust, to say I have read a wide variety over time. I think what I'm doing is slightly different, and go for it. Otherwise I could spend the rest of my life trying to catch up with what's been written already. You have to kind of go with your nerve, so to speak. Okay, question 2. Do you find yourself choosing different kinds of books at different periods of the year? I don't read according to the seasons, I just read. I'm non-seasonal. But I can get interested in a particular question or an author and read more of that. For example, only recently, and pretty much around my second or third video on YouTube, I started to read Lord Peter Wimsey detective novels, and I've continued that. I would like to read more. I would like to read them all. And I have dipped my toe in reading a little bit of Muriel Spark. I would like to read more. And W.H. Auden, during this time I've been on BookTube, I've really got into in a big way, and I would love to read more about his life, biography and thoughts and reflections on his writing. I've got a big book of his collected poems, and I would like to supplement that with reading more about his essays and his lectures and so forth. And just recently I actually found recordings of him reading his own poetry, which would be wonderful to have on audiobook kind of setup, but I find them as music tracks. You can buy them as an album, and it's wonderful to hear a poet reading in their own voice usually. They're not always the very best readers, but there's a treat to hearing the years and the experience behind the poetry in the voice, I think. And I do like W.H. Auden reading his poetry. And apparently he was given to standing up and just reciting it for hours at a time, because he learnt it off. He completely was in him. So you were getting his voice and his eyes, because he wasn't looking down to the page. It was him engaging as a poet, which would be fascinating. Occasionally I'm going to look down because I have the questions below the screen, so I don't totally lose my way. Although I don't read seasonally, I do take a variety of books on holiday. That was part of the question. And I think nobody wants to be stuck on a holiday with no books to read. I don't think, if you're a keen reader. And of course you don't know exactly what mood is going to strike, so I try to take various examples with me and see what works. Question 3. Do specific experiences in your life ever shape what you choose to read? This is the shortened version of the question. I look upon that as being reading for reference. I occasionally do it. I would read recipe books because every now and then I completely lose my cooking mojo. I'm bored, fed up with cooking the same things over and over again, and I think there's got to be more interesting, simpler, more healthy variety, and I get a cookery book. And then of course my expectations start here and they go there and then there. Then you cook a few and you think, oh, that's just exactly what I normally cook, only it's got a fancier name and a couple more different ingredients. Yeah, I reckon that for most most cookery books have a yield to me of about 3 recipes that I will cook again and again and again, which is quite expensive when you think about it. And yet it would seem sensible then to borrow them from a local library, but a local library normally lends you a book for 3 weeks, and I don't get a cookery book and cook the whole entirety of it in 3 weeks. I'm not an experimental cook who's been paid to do these kind of things, so yeah, I end up having to buy my own cookery books. Okay, question 4. Oh, this is another big long question. Have there been times let me read you the whole question to give you a sample of what an entire question from Hannah sounds like. 4. Have there been any times in your life when circumstances have limited or changed your reading in some way? Perhaps caretaking responsibilities, or a big move that made it hard to find as much time to read as you'd like, or personal illness that made it harder to concentrate, or maybe just long-term travel that might have limited your book choices. How do you deal with those circumstances? My answers are yes, no, don't ask. Also, academic reading, I think, ruins concentration on enjoying and reading a whole book. Recently I did a master's, and a master's is normally 1 year or 2 years part-time, and each week it's a new topic. So you do not have the luxury of sitting and reading the whole book. You are thinking, I need to read chapter 3 or so. And after a year or 2 of doing this, your normal expectations on a book are to fill it. It's to go quickly to the list of contents. Which do I need to read? Or look at the back in the index and read it. That wee bit and not anything else. I have literally got a couple of books that I love deeply. They're so exciting to read, but I want to read it like all at once. I jump between chapters and I half read because I can't wait to get on to the next bit. It's kind of strange when you get a really good book. Those are my answers to question 4. 5. Reading slumps. Have you ever experienced a slump? And how do you handle it? I think I've had a slight reading slump from the academic time. I've recently had a house move and a lot of life changes, and that's given me a little bit of a slump. Also the fact that I'm still unpacking my books, and of course sometimes the one you suspect is still in one of the boxes. That makes it a wee bit more difficult. I think reading works well when you feel generally settled in life, and you may have one thing that you're adapting to, working with or need to be distracted from, and then you can still read. But if you've got too many things all changing at the same time, I think that takes away your concentration, or also very easy to be distracted by instant content on your phone or your different kind of social media. Reading slumps. Handling it, I just get on with other things in life. I find enjoying other things, which is good. And I find that sometimes you let books find you. And that just means simply drifting through secondhand bookstores or a really good bookshop. Now and then, seeing if a book grabs you, lifts some up that you just kind of think could be interesting. But it's a low risk venture. It's a maybe I will, maybe I won't. And then if you see it, it's like meeting an interesting person. You feel, I want to go for coffee, let's have a chat, let's hang out, I want to see them again. And it's like that with a book, a good book. You're meeting the author on the page and you're going, this is good company, I want to spend time with you. So that's kind of what I think. Question 6. Booktubers talk about book hangovers, so you're moved by a book and you still hang on with it. I think occasionally, most recently Polly Devlin writing Home, a series of articles written absolutely beautifully, such an interesting life, moving from rural Northern Ireland suddenly into vogue, and then centre stage in the fashion world, and the whole span of her life, which has gone on to be other things as well. And she writes it beautifully, so it has stayed with me. I think another book which is more of an echo now because it's much longer ago, but in the past year I read a life story of Clementine Churchill, married to Winston Churchill, written by her daughter, but mostly pulled together with her own words of her mother and her father, because they had I was going to say ferocious correspondence, but I mean the rate at which they communicated by letters and notes and writing was enormous. It wasn't ferocious in the sense of being a difficult or vicious conversation at all. When they were apart, there was a real sense in which Winston was writing, I'm desperate for a letter from you, please send me one. I need to know how you all are. And there was a lot of letter writing, which of course then it can be read now. But also especially during the war, there would be notes several times a day, passing back and forth between them. She was very much involved in his work. It's fascinating because it is, the Second World War is the backdrop, if you can say that such a thing is just a backdrop. And she very much knew who the people were. There were people she liked or didn't trust. And just, it was such a personal struggle with the two of them giving so much for such a long time, and in a way that has affected everyone in the world, really, because it was a time of serious threat to democracy. So I think that's fascinating. So that has kind of stayed with me, and that is actually the impetus for me thinking I would like to have more readings of letters and biographies. 7. Question 7. A few books that almost always work for you. You hit just the right spot when you need a lift. I have nothing very unusual or startling, and some people are going to be saying exactly the same things. Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice. I sometimes lift it to read one part of the book which I find amusing or interesting, and I'll just end up reading the whole book. And I analysed it and thought about why does it work so well, and I think it's the short chapters as part of it. Something that works also, Anything by P.G. Wodehouse. And a book called Creative Rituals, which is by Mason Curry. I almost get separation anxiety if I can't find this book. So many fantastic examples of creative people and how they find time to do their creative work. And in terms of audiobooks, Rickmal Crompton, any for Just William stories read by Martin Jarvis are always a joy. 8 tag people. I tag Evening Reader, Margaret Pinard and Sean Bree's books. So Hannah, I hope you enjoyed my answers to your questions, and everyone else watching as well. Please do join me in the fun and give your answers as well. Bye for now.